Okay, good evening, everyone.
Hello.
We are going to continue in the Shemona Esrei. So this week, we are up to the next blessing. Last week we did Hashivenu. We did the blessing of Teshuva, asking God to bring us back to Him.
Now we came.
Right, that's right. And this week, we are going to continue with the next one, which is selicha, forgiveness. Selach Lanu, Avinu. So I'm going to read the bracha, and then we'll discuss the bird.
One interesting question with that bracha is after why we say in the Shema you have to spend the whole day for selicha mechila.
Okay,
Or
good.
a bad question, why first was mouth after.
Right, that's a great question.
Chaper.
Right. for another time, it's a good question.
That could be a question for itself. Maybe.
Yes.
Well, we can't assume that we really succeeded.
Well, that's a little depressing.
Some of you that Teshuva isn't accepted, like mine.
Okay, so we'll have to come back to that another time. But this pause, Selach Lanu Avinu ki chatanu. So our Father, forgive us because we sinned. Mechila lanu Malkeinu ki fashanu. Another expression of mechila. God, you should, I guess, forgive our King ki fashanu, because another expression of sin. We rebelled ki mechila v'selicha, because you are, and again the two expressions again, you are one who forgives and forgives. Baruch atah Hashem chanun hamar b'lislach. Blessed are you, Hashem, our God, that you do a lot of forgiving. You favor to forgive a lot. So I want to take the organization of Rabbi Yehoshua Heller from the sefer Beis Tefilah, where in this bracha actually he goes more to discuss the bird, and the bird that corresponds to this bracha. And from there, we'll go back to the exact different questions that we could discuss in the actual words of the blessing. So this bracha, if we count it up, this is number 7, right? 3, got 4, 5. This is number 6. This is the 6th blessing. If you look in the list in Shmini and the list in Re'eh, the birds over there, which bird appears over there? The Bas Hayana. That's the 6th one. So let's try to identify different behaviors of the Bas Hayana that are told to us based on the different psukim and the Chazal, and we'll go from there to explain how that corresponds to this bracha. So the Bas Hayana, there's 2 behaviors which are really...
Do we know the English name of that bird?
Well, after we identify the behaviors, maybe we'll try to come to explain that. The first behavior that is mentioned in the different psukim is the behavior of it wails and it cries. It cries like an oval, like mournfully. And there's the pasuk that Rishua brings her in Micha, in Perek Aleph, Ba'amr al zos espadov alila, I will mourn, I will lament, ve'evel kibanos hayana, like the daughters of the Yana, this bird. That's one pasuk. Another pasuk in Eov, Perek Lamed 30, Verea levanos ya'ana. And the pasuk by the Bnos Yana continues over there to say, "Hu asher v'ugvi lekol bachim, hu asher ta'oras adam lizok le'er kol bachim al vanos v'atzumim." So he says, the pasuk there continues to say that someone's crying, like the voice of the Bas Hayana. So you see that this is the behavior that it goes and it wails and it cries. That's one behavior. The Yakut Shimoni, it's a medrash. Bas Hayana tzavachas milalas. It screeches, it wails. And the pasuk over there. Fine, so that's one behavior. Behavior number 2 that we could identify is very interesting. There's let's find the pasuk here. It's a pasuk in Micha Vav. Hold on. Yeshaya Gimel, the first one. Lo teshuv lenetzach, you will not sit forever. V'shaychanu sham benos yana, and the benos yana, they dwell over there. They dwell in a place where there's no other inhabitants. The pasuk over there in Lamed Daled, Midor lador techarav, ha'isa novatanim chatzir lebenos yana. V'yishu ba benos yana lo toshiv ulenetzach. In a place where there's not going to be any more living. It's a pasuk referring to the downfall of Bavel. There's going to be a downfall. There's not going to be anyone living there. It's going to be a place where the benos yana, they dwell. So the other behavior here seems to be that these birds, this specific type of bird, it picks a desolate, silent type of area, and they live there. So those are the two things. They loudly they're mournful, they're lonely in places which are desolate, silent. Now one of the standard ways to identify this bird is ostrich. Some people say a certain type of owl, but the ostrich seems to fit the way that the observation shows these two behaviors. And if we could just come to the bracha, the idea of selicha, forgiveness. So what do we see in these two behaviors that the ostrich perhaps would have that would connect to this bracha of selicha? We could look at it and we could say, we see selicha over here, we see forgiveness. So it sounds really interesting. We've got, we just did Teshuva, right? We have the bracha of coming back to God.
Oh, they're crying out now.
Right. So after Teshuva, it's very important. It's a very central, actually, is selicha, forgiveness. You got to recognize how bad you have done, what level of deep sin has been done after you come back and stop doing it. That's the next step. And as Chazal tell us, and based on many psukim, the way to go about that, the number one idea is vidui, is to confess, is to speak, to express. And the best way to do vidui, what does it say in the Rambam? Lios hashav tzoik tamid lifnei Hashem bivchi b'tachnunim. Right, to constantly scream out before God with crying and pleading. Yafa tzakol adam. Right, tzakah is wonderful. It's great for a man. And there's verse after verse he brings over here how it discusses the zakah, the screaming out in confession. Amazing Chazal, ki kafi asher tachaved avodah hanacha vayagon, according to the heaviness, how strong one moans and is in agony b'bakashas haslicha while he's asking for forgiveness. Kein yakil umaso chumra v'nosov. Based on that, the heaviness of his sin will become light. That will bring that level of atonement. Midah keneged midah in that way. So that's one idea we find by selicha, expression of agonizing and wailing. And the other one is, there's two psukim he brings here. Says the pasuk in Ezra, Perek Tes 9, when I heard of this thing, it was the terrible practice that Ezra saw. He saw people were intermarrying at that time of history, and it was terrible. And he says, what did he do? He tore his clothing, he pulled out his hair, and Veshava Meshomim. And I sat in silence, desolation, silence. The same word, Shama. Micha, Perek Vav, Hishamim Malchotosech. When a person sins, he should be in silence. Hishamim. He should take it in. He should be thinking.
So they're two opposites, really, right?
Okay, that's a good point. But they both come to the same point, because when someone sits in silence, he's able to think about how difficult and how sinful he was, to the way that he was supposed to be relevant to that, right? That's the number one. And number two, the next level is, okay, so let me take that and scream out to God, please. I can't imagine how bad I did, and then ask God for forgiveness. It goes in steps. It probably goes in a revolving circle also, because then after you do that, you go back to, it's like a person in mourning, right? A person in mourning, you could imagine, he's at certain times in the day or certain times over the next few months, he could just be sitting there and just thinking, and he's like so depressed he can't even move. That's the real mourning. And then at other times he could just be, from like an opposite perspective, he might just be screaming out in pain, grievousness. So says Rabbi Yehoshua Heller, this seems to be exactly corresponding to this bird, the ostrich, right? These are the two behaviors that we're finding in the ostrich. So when you look at the ostrich, you could look at this Basiana, and you could see these two different behaviors of selicha, of being a selech. And that's just in the general.
The ostrich reacting to something going on that causes to do one thing or the other.
I'm not aware.
Do ostriches call out? I didn't know that.
Because you're not aware of even the screeching type of.
Type of ostrich?
I wonder if these ostriches are specific like the other behavior. If the ones that are living in, desolate, silent areas in the middle of the deserts. If there's a difference.
Zoo over here?
What is that?
Did they have them in the zoo here?
I don't know. I've never been to the zoo here, but I have seen an ostrich just last Pesach in Israel.
Oh, okay.
I was there.
Was it
Yeah, I didn't.
screeching?
Not screeching the way we imagine screeching,
Right.
but it makes right.
Some noise.
A lot of
I
these
don't-
ideas.
I didn't know.
It's interesting, and it could be you're right. A lot of these ideas don't necessarily come out in a physical way to the same extent. A lot of it may have to do with the techuna, the way it relates to the spiritual world. But there's for sure some level of physicality which comes out. So we should be able to identify something, but it's hard. It's hard to. And of course, the ostrich is not necessarily true. Our scroll sometimes says ostrich, sometimes they say the owl. But we
Owls do
identified.
outreach,
Yeah, but we identified. Some identify other birds as owls, so it's not so
Right.
easy.
Not so good. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so that's just in the correspondence. So if we could just discuss this bracha a little bit. So the points out there's three major questions here on this bracha. So Selach Lanu Avinu ki chotanu, mechila lanu Malkeinu ki vashanu ki mechila selicha. So we have two different requests for forgiveness. One is a selach, one is mechal. What exactly is the difference between selach and mechal? Why in the first one do we come to God as our Father, Avinu, and the second expression of mechal, we come to God as Malkeinu, our King. And we see already that there's a difference. In the first one was chatanu, we sinned, and the second one is rebelling, fashanu, and this is more standard. We know chatanu is from shogeg. It's a type of sin which is more of a mistake, and fashanu is more rebellious. So is that all it is? That mechal, which is being put together with fashanu, is just a stronger level of forgiveness, even on a rebellious type of sin. Give us mechila and chatanu and on the chet, which is just shogeg. So we ask selach. Is that all it is? That the word selach is not as strong, or is there something more over here? And the third question here is ki mochel v'selachota. Really strange, right? In the beginning of the bracha, when we ask, we're asking God selach, and what's the next one? Machal. And then when we refer to the praise of God, who are you? We switch the order. We reverse it. Ki mochel, first mochel, and then selach. So why do we do it? These are three questions he deals with. So it's a really interesting medrash. It's medrash in Eichot, coming to explain a pasuk in Yirmiyah. Yirmiyah Tazayin. It says like this. The pasuk says, Osi ozvu v'sarasi lo shamru. It's one of those psukim that the Navi is...
We're talking about ostriches.
I was curious what animal was going to...
And perhaps the owl. So
Well, not
that goes
clarifies,
back
not
to your...
clarifies, yeah.
Hey, did you ever meet an ostrich?
Never have, no, I haven't.
Would you think that an ostrich has any type of screeching or wailing type of...
I think they do. But of course, we always think of them putting their head in the ground, which is probably a myth.
Maybe you won't hear the wailing.
Yeah. Yeah, we didn't talk about that, which is good.
I
'cause we're
think,
talking
are
about
they
selicha.
kosher? Because I think they are kosher.
Well, these are the list of birds which are not kosher. If this bird couldn't be identified as the ostrich, then it would not be kosher. But, of course, we don't know if it is for sure. Certain earlier sources, the Rishonim, will say that it's the ostrich. That much we could say. The pasuk doesn't say it. It's hard.
Go on.
What is it? So this pasuk in Yirmiyah, he's talking about the sins of the Jewish people. Osi ozvu v'sarasi lo shemara. So God says, they forsake me. Osi ozvu v'sarasi, and my Torah, my laws lo shemara, they did not guard. And the Medrash says in Eicha, on this pasuk, God is saying, Osi ozvu, right? They forsake me. Let's read it like this. Osi ozvu, they should forsake me. They should forsake me. Halavai, if only they forsake me, v'tarasi shemara. Meaning, of course, God says, my people, they should have me as a God, they should have my Torah. But if one thing has to go, which one should it go? Should it be the Torah or should it be me? If we could talk in those terms for a minute. So God says they should forsake me, but my Torah, they should guard the laws. It's a very strange medrash. What exactly is the meaning? And everybody wonders exactly how to understand. So here comes the Pshat of Rabbi Yehoshua Heller. He says that it's an old discussion. How do we understand the Torah and the mitzvahs? How do we understand the commandments that God gave to us? Are the commandments that God gave to us together, what we call it, the king? The king is forcing laws upon us. Azar zagozer, right? As there's a decree, you have to do this, you have to do that. Or do we look at it more from like a rofe, a doctor? That God is giving us laws which are for our own benefit, physical way, spiritual way. Which way do we look at it? As an old question, really goes back to a Gemara and Brachos, and it's not so easy to figure it out exactly. But he wants to say like this, that the truth is, before the Torah, before the laws were given by Sinai, there was a certain way to live. The laws of perfection existed, and Adam Arishon, Noach, we find sources in Chazal. These people, Avram Avinu, of course, they listened to the Torah. They followed Torah. But at that time, there was no gozer. There was HaKadosh Baruch Hu didn't decree you have to do this. There was the 7 mitzvahs, there were the 7 basic commandments. But other than that, there wasn't anything more than that directly told by God you have to do. At that point, any other element of positive behavior was all from the perspective of refuah. It's healing. It's good for us. And then God gives us a Torah by Sinai, and not that it takes away from the healing, but now there's a new element which is added, which is gozer. We have to listen to God as we are God's servants, right? He took us out of Mitzrayim.
What does gozer mean?
Decree. It's a decree of the king. We have to listen, and we could, even if we don't discuss any type of refuah, any type of healing, any type of positive element for our own good, but we have to listen, right? He's God, our king. So he says, which one, if we would have to pick one or the other, which element would we say God is more interested in? Does he want us to do this or that? He wants both, but if we have to pick one or the other, which one would we say? So he compares it to a father of a young child, and the child gets sick. The father happens to be an expert doctor, and he goes to his son and he says, my dear son, I have these medicines for you, take it, it's good for you. On top of that, I'm commanding you as a father, you have to honor me as my father. You should take them. What does the son go? The son doesn't listen and he doesn't take the medicine. He gets sicker and he gets more weak and more sick. The father comes to him and he says, the fact that you don't want to listen to my decree, my law, okay, so I can forgive you for that. How could you not have Rachmanos, or you should have mercy for yourself? You need it. You're getting sick. So he wants to say this is the relationship from God's perspective in a certain bechina, a certain element, and that is that if there's one thing when we don't listen to God, between the two aspects, God decreed you have to do, and God gave us commandments for our own positivity, right, for our own healing and physically, spiritually. Which one does God say, how can you not listen? And the one which is going to stick out more from the perspective of HaKadosh Baruch Hu is that you didn't listen when it was for your own benefit. It's for your good. And of course, besides for that, there's the decree that we didn't listen.
Isn't Selach lined up with one characteristic of God and mechila with the other?
They're exactly.
Say
That's
that
what
again. I didn't hear you. Say that again, Bob?
The Selach has to do with Avinu and mechila has to do with Malkeinu.
Right, so this is amazing. So this is exactly what he wants to use to explain. Exactly like you said. So he says like this. Selach and mechal. He would like to say that mechal is, well, hold on. Right, selach would be from our perspective. So selach is something which is for our benefit, right? Selicha. That something which could have been good for us, and we didn't follow through, we didn't behave in the right way, and therefore there was a kilkul, something was ruined, something was bad for us. Selach means to remove that kilkul, remove the bad. Mechal is more from what we're used to, forgiveness. You do something bad to someone, mechila. We don't say selicha. We do say that in Hebrew. Modern Hebrew we say selicha, excuse me. Fine. But when we talk in Yom Kippur, we say mechila. We have both also there. But when we talk about, someone did best, can I ask you mechila, forgiveness? That's something which I didn't listen to you. It was something bad against you. So he wants to say, when we're asking God for both. We did something wrong. We want selicha, we want mechila. We want both, that Kadosh Baruch Hu should remove any kilkul, any bad which came out from our actions. And on top of that, mechila, Kadosh Baruch Hu, please forgive us for the bad that we didn't follow your decree. Each one is going to line up with the rest of the sentence. So here we have the sentence chet and pesha. So chet, we said, is when one sins in a accidental way, shogeg, and pesha is more rebellious, more mezid, and he rebels. It's on purpose. So if you would take each one by itself and say, if a person did a chet b'shogeg, he did a mistake. If you look at the two elements we discussed, think about it, which one is more blatant, sticks out more by the chet, by the shogeg? So the element of not listening to God's decree is not as strong. Of course, there's some element like that, because if a person would really be listening strongly to God's decree, he wouldn't even do a chet b'shogeg. He would make sure before he picks up the plant on Shabbos, not realizing it was Shabbos, he would realize it was Shabbos. When it was attached to the ground, he would know. He would be thinking. It would be very obvious to him. So there's some element of not listening to God's decree.
If you, in the time of the Beis Hamikdash, if you're doing a sin b'shogeg, do you bring a chatos or not?
Yes.
You do.
That's where the chatos is.
Okay.
Exactly. But more blatant by a chet would be the element of kilkel. It was something which it affected us. We didn't listen to the commandment that God gave us, and that was bad for us. Physically, spiritually, it was a bad effect for us. As opposed to by pesha, by rebellion. So, from our perspective at least, what do we? If we should look at, which one was worse? Which one is it? The fact that we did something bad to ourselves, or we didn't listen to God's decree? From our perspective, is we don't listen to God's decree. That's something that's terrible. So when we ask God for selicha from chet, we're going to focus on the selicha. God, we did a chet b'shogeg. We did something by mistake. We can ask for mechila. But more blatant would be, God, give us the selicha. Give us the taking away the kilkel. Right? Any type of physical or spiritual bad that happened to us. And when it comes to pesha, we say mechila. There, we go straight to the mechila. God, please forgive us for not listening to you, for this terrible sin of rebellion. And then we could also understand why our gisha, the way we come to God, in the first expression is Avinu, our Father, and the second one is Malkeinu, because in the first expression it should fit into place. Right? A father, he loves his son. He loves his son, and he wants all the good for his son. And even when the son, like we said before, he might not listen to the father still wants to give and love and give, right? So much to the son. The love is so strong. Selach Lanu Avinu ki chatanu. So we're asking God for selicha, for our own kilkel, for our own personal benefit. So then we say Avinu. We come to God as our Father. Please give it to us. Malkeinu, when we come to God as we did something wrong to you, that's Malkeinu, our King. Right? That's the way we're going to come to God. And for now, he goes to answer the third question. Why do we reverse the order? It falls into place as well. When we begin to ask, beseech God, give us selicha, give mechila, you're going to start with, first selicha, which is, we're not asking as much as mechila, first for our own good. And then mechila, where we really did something against you, God, so we have the brazenness, After that, we'll go to the next step. Can we ask for that, at least? Also. It says the end of the brach, ki moichel v'sleichot. But when we talk about God's willingness to come and give to us, going back to that mashal, that parable, with the father who's also the rofe, he's the doctor, he says to the son, you didn't take my medicines. I could forgive. The first thing that, from God's perspective, is the opposite. I could forgive the fact that you didn't listen to me. That's ki mochel, you're first a mochel. But selach, but then afterwards you're also a selach. But you also give us the ability to come back in fullness without any type of kilkel. We have all the healing that is there, and that's the pasuk Osiyah Zvu. God says, even if you're not going to listen to me, fine, forsake me. Meaning forsake that element. But at least you should listen to my mitzvahs, and by listening to my mitzvahs, my commandments, for your own good. From there, halavai, it's going to come back to listening to God as our King. So that's the bracha he wants to say for, this is the sixth bracha, Selach Lanu. If we have a little more time for this week, I'm just going to continue on to the next few brachos. He doesn't discuss so much the wording of the bracha, but more the correspondence to the bird. There's a little bit of the wording. So let's begin with the next one, ha-bracha shavis. So you have the seventh bracha here. Yeah, exactly. Re'ino v'anyenu, very good. V'riva rivenu. There's two expressions of pleading, asking from HaKadosh Baruch Hu to bring us, deliver us from the oppressions. Re'ino v'anyenu, see now, please, in our pains, in our oppression. V'riva rivenu, and fight our fights. And then again, ugoleinu mehira l'man shemecha, bring us deliverance, redemption quickly. For the name, l'man shemecha, for your name's sake. Ki goel chazakata, because you're a strong Redeemer. Baruch atah Hashem goel Yisrael. So, what Rabbi Yehoshua here in the sefer Beis Tefilah, what he deals with is the first two expressions. There seems to be two different beseechings here, right? First, when someone oppresses, someone bothers someone else, so we understand there's the aspect of being bothered, the oppression itself. He wants to say, right, fight or fight is the one who is bothering often he'll bother and he'll be able to, he'll smile afterwards, right? Not only did I bother you, but I was able to become stronger than you. So it makes my own position higher. So that's the Varivenu, take revenge against them, fight them off. Those are the two elements. And he says that there's a certain word that we use in the different psukim, the verses in the Torah, which actually encompasses both, one word. And he wants to say that's a chamas. Chamas is the word ches mem samach, which is a word which expresses both. Now, if we could just find a few psukim and chazals that explain that. There's a Rashi.
What's the word?
Chamas, ches mem samach. It's used to discuss stealing. That's usually where someone is coming to steal, so we say chamas.
Yeah.
In one place is in Parashas Noach. It says that the Vatimalei haaretz chamas mipneihem. Their land was full of chamas. They were stealing all rampage. So over there, actually, Rashi and that pasuk in Bereshis says, I don't have the Rashi here, Gezela v'chamas. He says, he expresses what they were doing. They were stealing. There was Gezela, and then another level of chamas. So there seems to be a higher level, which he wants to explain means the fact that the one who was stealing was being gleeful. Right? Afterwards, he's so happy he's able to be strong over someone else. There's a Malbim in Eov that says it explicitly. He's skadol olav. He says chamas is the liskadol, to become stronger upon the one who he's oppressing. He's exalting himself. There's a Seforno Bereshis I found over here that he actually says in this word chamas, the one who is pursuing aggression to satisfy. He's satisfying himself. So there's this word. If you look at the next word in the list, what's the word? Tachmas. Tough, and then chamas. And if it's not just a coincidence that happens to be the way to express, oppression plus the idea of being the trumpet, the one who he's coming to oppress, Rashi here writes, Ayet chazak chachotiv ofacher. Rashi there on Shmini says on this bird, he's a strong predator that snatches other birds. Chachotiv ofacher. Chachotiv achomis leitim acherim. He snatches and robs other birds. It's the behavior of this bird.
What's the name of the bird?
Tachmas. Find it.
What?
What it actually? In English. Yeah. How do we identify it?
Yeah.
So this is one of the birds that are even less able to. It's less identifiable. We don't really know what it is, but I don't know. I did a little bit of research.
The word resembles Hamas. So.
Right. We know that the behavior is a strong predator. And it's some type of hawk.
That's immediately I would have thought of a hawk.
Yeah, but you would say that's in your mind. That's the bird that sticks out.
Yeah, because they're always. When I have hawk in my backyard, all the other birds just disappear because I watched a hawk once. They'll hit nests and they'll eat the babies. They definitely like that.
Wow.
Nasty bunch.
What is it? Yeah.
Nasty bunch.
Oh, we eat birds too, so we're not nasty.
Yeah, but we do it for a greater good.
Tachmas. Will they translate there? No translation. See, our scroll will translate some of them. Like the Pasayana, they write over here, identified as the ostrich according to Rav Sadia and the Chizkuni. This one has no translation. Because some of them are just so difficult to figure out.
Yeah.
All right, so that's
I think the Living Torah by your Kaplan.
He does a little more identifying.
He identifies things more often.
Yeah.
And he's got the pictures there on the birds.
So one day there was a hawk on the lawn out here eating a squirrel. And
Really?
And the Teitelbaum kids were walking by and they're going, "Is it okay for us to go by?" Oh yeah, he's not going to hurt you, but it was kind of scary.
You like squirrels better.
Squirrel, that's a pretty big game.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's enough. I'm not going to talk about this bracha. So that's why it corresponds to the bracha of Gula, the physical redemption, oppression. It's this bird that exemplifies that, personifies it. We've got the last one. I'm just going to talk about one more. A few more minutes. We'll go quick. Rafeinu Hashem and Rafeinu. Right. The next bracha is refuah, healing. So this one had all bechlal. Right. The Rabbi Yehoshua doesn't really come to explain the wording of the bracha. He really just comes to explain the correspondence to the next bird. The next bird is the shachaf. Now, we'll get to exactly what the bird is in a second. This one actually is interesting because you'll see in a second. The shachaf, if we could just identify what type of behaviors it has, and then we'll come to see if we could figure out what bird it is. What does the word mean? So, shin ches pei is used sometimes to scrape away. Rashi in Chulin says, shachaf loshen chulin v'chuli. Rashi there says it's lotion of sickness. Now, we're going to have to find a bird that maybe has some possible cause of sickness. Maybe it feeds on some type of bacteria or dead, fish or things like that are bacteria. So when they come from, here to there, they end up having disease spread,
But
perhaps.
All these wild animals could have a disease.
That's true. It would have to be something out of the ordinary. And Yalkut says on this bird a little different element. Surif umrabba basar. It rots and it softens flesh. Sounds like it causes some type of decay. It's not exactly clear. And then there's a Rashi. Rashi writes on this bird over there in Shmini. Of hamotzil hayam. This bird is by the sea. It's found by the sea. Zakta Ibn Ezra. Lavan, it's white. Or maybe a little off-white, doesn't have to be exactly white.
Like a seagull?
Yeah, so that's what we're getting at. So my name is Segal, so that's why I was interested. But it's a thin and pale bird. It seems like maybe perhaps a seagull. And according to research also, it seems to, you said that it doesn't necessarily mean the seagull because you'll find this in other types of birds as well. But it feeds on flesh and they found that it spreads disease. Fine, it's something to look into. But either way, that's the correspondence to this bracha. It's the next one in the list, and it's the next bracha of God, asking God for refuah, for healing. And shachav, also, this one is another source. She brings over here. There's
This is the book your Rebbe gave you, right? The one here?
Yeah. The Torah's Kohanim. Chazal, the rabbi said in Torah's Kohanim, Parshat B'chukosai, Yesh lecha adam shel chola, there's a man who's sick, umutul b'mita, he's bedridden, he's in bed, aval b'saru shomer alav, you're going to find a man like that, whose flesh is still intact. Tamalomar es hashachafas l'sof shebesaru nischaf. And the pasuk there is talking about the tochacha, all the terrible things that happen.
I think it's the word.
Yeah, what is it?
Shachefes.
Oh, shachafas. I'm sorry. L'sof shebesaru
What does
nischaf.
that mean?
So it means to peel off. His flesh is going to be peeled off. It's trying to show that a person who's sick, a person who's sick, an element of sickness that is trying to bring out is the peeling off of the skin. And that's where you're finding this word is shachaf, same letter, shin chas pei. Perhaps it pulls away at other birds, pulls off their skins. Something to think about at least. All right, we'll stop over here. Next week, I guess, if we're here, we'll continue with...
The seagulls eat
Rosh
fish.
Hashanah.
I think they do.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
They're
When I
They're real
used to-
scavengers. They're real scavengers.
When I commuted to high school, I would take